Navani Prinati Naruparani Tata Sarirani Vihaya Jirnani Anyani Samyati Navani Dehi. Vasamsi. 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 Repeat.
Yeah.
Vasamsi.
Garments.
Garments.
Jirnani.
Jirnani.
Old and worn out.
Old and worn out.
Yata.
Yatha.
Just as.
Just as.
Vihaya.
Vihaya.
Giving up.
Giving up.
Navani.
Navani.
New garments.
New garments.
Grinati.
Grinanti.
Does accept.
Does accept.
Nara.
Nara.
A man.
A man.
Aparani.
Aparani.
Others.
Others.
Tata.
Tata.
The same way.
In the same way.
Sarirani.
Sharirani.
Bodies.
Bodies.
Vihaya.
Vihaya.
Giving up.
Giving up.
Jirnani.
Jirnani.
Old and useless.
Old and useless.
Anyani.
Anyani.
Different.
Different.
Samyati.
Samyati.
Verily accepts.
Verily accepts.
Navani.
Navani.
New set.
New
New
sex.
set.
Dehi.
Dehi.
The embodied.
The embodied.
Translation. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. Please repeat. As a person puts on new garments,
As a person puts on new garments,
giving up old ones,
giving up old ones,
the soul similarly accepts
The soul similarly accepts
new material bodies,
new material bodies,
giving up the old and useless ones.
giving up the old and useless ones.
Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Who's going to read?
I can read it. Purport. Change of body by atomic individual soul is an accepted fact. Even the modern scientists who do not believe in the existence of soul but at the same time cannot explain the source of energy from the heart have to accept continuous change of body which appear from childhood to boyhood and from boyhood to youth and again from youth to old age. From old age the change is transferred to another body. This has already been explained in previous verse 2.13. Transference of atomic individual soul to another body is made possible by grace of super soul. The super soul fulfills the desire of the atomic soul as one friend fulfills the desire of another. The Vedas, like the Mukunda Upanishad,
See, that's a very important point. The super soul fulfills the desire of the atomic soul as one friend fulfills the desire of another. So, what's going to happen to us in life depends on what we desire. If we desire sense gratification, then Krishna will make facility for us, if that's what we want. If we desire to go away from Krishna, then Krishna makes a facility by which we can go away. So you have to be really careful what we desire. What is preoccupying our mind all the time? A desire preoccupies the mind. Now, if that desire is based on selfish interest, then that will be our destiny in life. And if Krishna helps us to achieve it, then we're in a bad situation because we're on a track that leads to repeated birth and death that way. So, purity of desire, that's a great art, a great benediction. And if we desire only to please the Lord through the instructions of spiritual masters, then we're very fortunate. If we have other types of desires, then Krishna will help us. Or at least He'll give us the opportunity to pursue those desires. Now, okay, good. Let's finish this. I have a whole bunch of things to say about this. Go ahead.
Okay. The Vedas, like the Mukunda Upanishad, as well as the... Yeah, 20 seconds. Okay.
That's okay. Continue.
No. Mukunda Upanishad, as well as Sweta Sattvatara Upanishad. Sweta Upanishad compare the soul and super soul to two friendly birds sitting on the same tree. One of the birds, the individual atomic soul, is eating the fruit of the tree, and the other bird, Krishna, is simply watching his friend. One of these birds, although they are the same in quality, one is captivated by the fruit of the material tree, while the other is simply witnessing the activities of his friend. Krishna is the witnessing bird, and Arjuna is the eating bird. Although they are friends, one is still the master, and the other one is the servant. Forgetfulness of the relationship by the atomic soul is the cause of one's changing his position from one tree to another, or from one body to another. The jiva soul is struggling very hard on the tree of the material body, but as soon as he agrees to accept the other bird as the supreme spiritual master, as Arjuna agreed to do by voluntary surrender to Krishna for instruction, the subordinate bird immediately becomes free from all lamentations. Both Mukunda Upanishad 3.1.2 and Shveta Svatara Upanishad 4.7 confirm this. Samane vrikshe purusho nimaguno nisya sochati mukhyamana jastam yada payastriti anyam isham asya mahimanam iti vita shokah. Although the two birds are in the same tree, the eating bird is fully engrossed with anxiety and moroseness as the enjoyer of the fruit of the tree. But if in some
Okay, you
way
see, as soon as we try and enjoy the fruit selfishly, independent of Krishna, we become full of anxiety and moroseness. Now, figure that out. It's only when we offer the fruit of our activity to Krishna that we become happy. By trying to enjoy the fruit independent of Krishna, we become morose and full of anxiety. You have to think about this carefully.
but if
Now,
it,
so many people are taking drugs due to anxiety in this country. At least 50+% of the population taking some kind of drugs due to anxiety. So,
With anxiety, Prabhupada, they want to get some extra joy. They want to feel high and then they take drugs.
well, no, the drugs are, no, they go to the doctor because they have stress and anxiety, and the doctor prescribes opioids to relieve these stress and anxiety. They have different names, Ritalin, Prozac, benzodiazepines, they have all these different names. But they're all drugs, mainly to relieve anxiety and stress. Now we know why, because they're trying to selfishly enjoy the fruit of their action independent of Krishna. And then they become full of anxiety and moroseness. Moroseness is a terrible word. Moroseness means it's a type of severe sadness that you can't get rid of.
didn't hear that before.
Huh?
I didn't hear that before.
Yeah,
Moroseness.
it's a terrible word.
Severe sadness.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
But if in the same way or the other he turns his face to his friend, the Lord, and knows his glories, at once the suffering bird becomes free from all anxieties. Arjuna has now turned his face towards his eternal friend Krishna and is understanding the Bhagavad Gita from him. And thus, hearing from Krishna, he can understand the supreme glories of Lord and be free from the lamentation. Arjuna is advised herewith by the Lord not to lament for the bodily change of his old grandfather and his teacher. He should rather be happy to kill their bodies in the righteous fight so that they may be cleansed at once of all the reactions from various bodily activities. One who lays down his life on the sacrificed altar or in the proper battlefield is at once cleansed of bodily reactions and promoted to the higher status of life. So there was no cause for Arjuna's lamentation.
Well, this is the code of the Vaishnava, of the Kshatriyas. To die on the battlefield valiantly is actually a glorious thing for a Vaishnava. To die with a bullet in the back of the head because you were running away is very, let's say, very, very negative thing for a Kshatriya. Kshatriya should get a bullet right in the head, right, facing the enemy, not in the back of the head trying to run away from the enemy. There's a joke about the Italian tank. The Italian tank has 1 gear to go forward and 35 to go backwards. You know? The Italian army has one of the worst records in war. They hardly have ever won any war. So, to be a Kshatriya, warrior, one must be fearless. And that requires a lot of training. And a Kshatriya who dies on the battlefield, valiantly, is glorified. So he's saying here that one who lays down his life on the sacrificial altar or in the proper battlefield is at once cleansed of bodily reactions and promoted to a higher status of life, so there is no cause for Arjuna's lamentation. Well, this is not only in the Vedas. If you look at, like in Iran, Iran had a big war with Iraq. A lot of people died. A lot of men died in battle. And they glorified the people that died valiantly. And Khomeini and other mullahs, they regularly go into the cemetery where these people are buried and glorify them. In fact, they have a festival of glorification for these, what they call heroes. And in different countries, they do the same thing. They glorify their people who are willing to sacrifice their life. You have the Arlington Cemetery. To be buried in the Arlington Cemetery is a real honor for American soldiers.
Okay, then.
In Washington, D.C. Yeah. Or near Washington, D.C. But you see here that this was not only in the Vedic times, even today. Okay, good. So, all right, next verse. You finished, right?
Yeah.
Nenam chindanti sastrani,
Nam
nenam
chindanti shastrani,
nenam dahati pavakaha,
Nenam dahati pavakaha,
na chainam hridayantyapo,
na chainam hridayam dapo,
na susayati marutaha,
na shosheti maharudaha,
na,
No.
never,
Never.
enam,
Enam.
this soul,
This soul.
chindanti,
chindanti,
can cut to pieces,
Can cut to pieces.
sastrani,
shastrani,
weapons,
weapons,
na,
na,
never,
never,
enam,
enam,
this soul,
this soul,
dahati,
dahati,
burns,
burns,
pavaka,
pavakaha,
fire,
fire,
na,
na,
never,
never,
cha,
cha,
also,
also,
enam,
enam,
this soul,
this soul,
kledianti,
hridyanti,
moistens,
moist,
apa,
apa,
water,
water,
na,
na,
never,
never,
susayati,
shoshati,
dry,
dry,
marutaha,
maruta,
wind.
wind,
The soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. Please repeat. The soul can never be cut to pieces
The soul can never be cut to pieces
pieces
by any weapon,
by any weapon,
nor burned by fire,
not burned by fire,
nor moistened by water,
not moistened by water,
nor withered by the wind.
nor withered by the wind.
Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Who wants to read?
Me.
Okay, go ahead, Krishna.
All kinds of weapons, swords, flame weapons, rain weapons, tornado weapons, etc., are unable to kill the spirit soul. It appears that there were many kinds of weapons made of earth, water, air, ether, etc., in addition to the modern weapons of fire. Even the nuclear weapons of the modern age are classified as fire weapons, but formerly there were other weapons made of all different types of material elements. Fire weapons were
Firearms. Does it say fire weapons?
Yes. Fire weapons were counteracted by water weapons, which are now unknown to modern science. Nor do modern scientists have knowledge of tornado weapons. Nonetheless, the soul can never be cut into pieces nor annihilated by any number of weapons, regardless of the scientific devices. The Mayavadi cannot explain how the individual soul came into existence simply by ignorance and consequently became covered by the illusory energy. Nor was it ever possible to cut the individual souls from the original Supreme Soul. Rather, the individual souls are eternally separated parts of the Supreme Soul. Because they are atomic individual souls, eternally Sanatana, they are prone to be covered by the illusory energy, and thus they become separated from the association of the Supreme Lord, just as the sparks of fire, although one in quality with the fire, are prone to be extinguished when out of the fire. In the Varaha Purana, the living entities are described as separated parts and parcels of the Supreme. They are eternally so according to the Bhagavad Gita also. So, even after being liberated from illusion, the living entity remains a separate identity, as it is evident from the teachings of the Lord to Arjuna. Arjuna became liberated by the knowledge received from Krishna, but he never became one with Krishna.
So now we have one way of defeating Mayavadis. There are many ways, but here's one. Mayavadis cannot answer how individuality came about in the material world. How the individual soul came into existence simply by ignorance and consequently became covered by the illusory energy. Now, why they cannot answer this question in a plausible way? Well, because they say that Brahman is one. So how can it become many? Their only explanation is it's an illusion. It doesn't exist. So all the individuality you see in this world, like everyone here is an individual, it's all an illusion. It's not real. But I can prove it's real. Let's say there's a Mayavadi. Let's say Arusha was a Mayavadi and said, this is all illusion. It doesn't exist. And I get this table and hit Arusha over the head. I said, why did you do that? I said, but it's not real. What do you care? If I hit the wall with the table, the wall's not going to complain. Why are you complaining? If I hit you on the head with the table, I say. So that proves that Arusha is an individual. The wall is not an individual, so it doesn't complain if I hit it with the chair or hit it with the table. But Arusha's complaining. That means he's an individual. So you could prove to the Mayavadi that it's not an illusion. That individuality is not an illusion. Therefore, their explanation that it's an illusion doesn't make sense. And they don't even say that. They have no answer. You can, let's do it, let's say we're on Sankirtan tomorrow, and you meet a real Mayavadi. So you can ask him the question, how is it that if all is one, there's individuality in this world? And write down what that person answers. Right. So this is why Sankirtan is so beneficial for learning the philosophy. Because you'll come in contact with people, and here It says the Mayavadi cannot explain how the individual soul came into existence simply by ignorance and consequently became covered by illusory energy. Nor was it ever possible to cut the individual souls from the original Supreme Soul. Rather, the individual souls are eternally separated parts of the Supreme Soul. So, Mayavadi said there's only one soul, Brahman. And you cannot cut it. I mean, you've been with Mayavadis. What do they say?
It's a bit different. It says that Brahman wants to experience the way in a different forms. Like, okay, you see a parents give birth to child. So
Yeah, but how does Brahman become many individual souls if Brahman is one soul?
it's like in one of the philosophy I have seen in YouTube, Sarvapriyananda is a very popular guy. He says that it's Brahman wants to experience as human want to do. Like we say that God want to experience and God want to enjoy. When we are serving Him, Krishna, we say that God want to experience as a man, God want to experience as a woman, God want to experience as a
But if there's only one
yes.
Brahman,
Yes.
how come there's so many individuals?
It's a different manifestation. Like we have a body, we have different organs, it's all part of our body. They say that the Brahman can expand himself and express in many forms. But it is up to the individuals to realize that they are part of the Brahman and reach back to him.
It doesn't make sense.
Means
But
That is what
right there, that's a contradiction of what Bhagavad Gita says. Bhagavad Gita says, Vaimamsa Jiva Bhuta Jiva Loka Sanatana, that the individual Amsa is eternal. So, is this Brahman that becomes many, is that many real or illusory?
yes, money is real.
It's
Because-
real?
Yes, money is real. But like they say that it is up to the individual.
But the Mayavadis say, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya.
It's I am not so great at any of it, so I am not the right person to speak lengthy on this. But at least whatever I heard, I understood. You have said that yes, we need to realize ourselves. We are part and parcel of Brahman. This is
Part and parcel.
yeah. And the
How
sense
can it
like,
be part and parcel if Brahman is one?
it's like maybe the one example I can think is we have.
I think you're mixing up what you learned here with what you learned there.
I shouldn't say that. Maybe I should not do that also, because the question is asked about what is that philosophy. Then I should be speaking only on those things, not mixing. But
No, okay, your homework is you find out exactly what they say and you come back with that.
sure, definitely.
All right? So right now you're mixing the two. Go ahead.
Isn't Mayavadi say Brahmasmi that I am Brahman?
Yeah.
That is Mayavadi philosophy. Is that what it
Yeah.
is?
No. Okay, wait a minute. No, they say that there's no I am. There's only it. I am would be a distinct individual, right? So,
That's so I'm right. I am that.
yeah, it's only one thing that's Brahman. It's not many Brahmans. And there's not many individuals in the Brahman. There's only one thing. It's called Kevala Advaita, absolute oneness. There's no chance of duality. There's no chance of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Brahmans. There's only one Brahman. That's called Kevala Advaita philosophy. Right. So, if we see individuality here, therefore, they say Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. This is Mithya, this is an illusion, all this individuality.
That's how they explain individuality.
Yes.
It's Mithya.
It's an illusion. It doesn't really exist. Right. When you reject all this, then you're ready to merge back into the oneness of Brahman.
The Prabhupada taught nicely, right? He said we are also real, but we are temporary. That's how we should understand, right? The living entities, because they keep changing bodies from.
No, you're not. You're not temporary. Only your body is
the
temporary.
body. You are
Yeah,
living.
you are real and you're eternal.
That's what how we Prabhupada made us understand, right?
Well, don't mix words. The body is temporary,
Yeah.
not the soul.
Not the soul.
Soul's eternal, right? Sanatana. And it's eternally an individual. Right? Second chapter, where Krishna says that we existed in the past, we exist now, we exist in the future. There was never a time when we did not. Latveva hanjatuna samnatvandemi janadipa. Lachayvina bhavishyama sarvahema takpanam. So, you have that verse and you have Mamayvam Sa Jiva Bhuta Jiva Loka Sanatana. The soul is eternal in the past, in the present, and in the future. So, therefore, there cannot be only one Brahman, homogeneous oneness.
Yeah.
That is, and by the way, that's just a subordinate part, or let's say, that's one aspect of Krishna, but that's not the whole aspect. And what is the Brahman? The Brahman is made up of infinite souls that are like pencils of light. Let's take a look. Let's finally finish that understanding what Brahman is. People think of Brahman as impersonal due to imperfect vision. Just like if you watch an airplane take off and you're following it as it's going up and up and up into the sky, at a certain point it disappears. Now, did the airplane disappear?
No.
It disappeared from our eyesight, but it's still there,
Yeah.
right? And it's still going. So why do we see this merging of the airplane into the sky? Due to our incomplete and imperfect senses. It's not that there's a total merging and the airplane sort of evaporates and it all becomes one. You see. So impersonality is perceived due to imperfect senses, not because there is such a thing as impersonality. And in the Brahman effulgence, okay, this is Brahma Samhita 5:21. Take a look at that. Brahma Samhita 5:21, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, purport. Just as the sun is eternally associated with his rays, so the Transcendental Supreme Lord is eternally joined with the jivas. The jivas are the infinitesimal particles of his spiritual effulgence, and are therefore not perishable like mundane things. So, jivas are the infinitesimal particles of the Lord's spiritual effulgence. That spiritual effulgence is called the Brahman. And, okay, so then it says, the jivas, being particles of Godhead's effulgent rays, exhibit on a minute scale the qualities of the divinity. Hence, the jivas are identical with the principles of knowledge, knower, egoism, enjoyer, mediator, and doer. Krishna is the all-pervading, all-extending Supreme Lord, while jivas have a different nature from his, being his atomic particles. That eternal relationship, in other words, the jivas never become Krishna. Whereas the Mayavadis teach that at one point the Atma becomes Paramatma. So you see there are many, many levels in which Mayavad philosophy is absolutely wrong if we accept the statements of the Acharyas, starting with Krishna. The eternal relationship, that eternal relationship consists in this, that the Supreme Lord is the eternal master and jivas are his eternal servants. So, when the Mayavadis say when you merge into Brahman, there's no more servant and master, there's just oneness. That you must accept, right? That's something that they say.
That's what the philosophy says.
Yes. Jivas also have sufficient eligibility in respect of the mellow quality of the divinity. Apariyamitastvanyam, Pakriti Vidimepram. By this verse of the Gita, it is made known that jivas are his transcendental potency. All the qualities of the unalloyed soul are above the eightfold qualities such as egotism, etc., pertaining to his achit, or non, let's say, intelligent potency. Okay, so anyway, the Brahman is made up of infinite numbers of jivas, or eternal souls. Right? And it's compared to pencils of light. That's another term that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur uses. Pencils of light. Okay. So Brahman is not really impersonal. It looks like that. Just like the airplane looked like it merged into the sky. That is because of our imperfect vision. Brahman is made up of an infinite number of living entities. That's why it says that the living entities are sarvagata, present everywhere. Wherever there's sunlight in the universe, there are living entities. And there's sunlight everywhere in the spiritual world and in the material world. So there's living entities everywhere. Yeah, go ahead, your question.
Yeah, just answered it.
Oh, okay. You must be a mind reader.
So also we can understand from that Samhita, right? Angani Yasya Sakalindriya, he can all his
Senses
interchangeable.
are interchangeable, yes.
That's how we understand. So he can produce from anywhere. From his effulgence, he can produce living entities from, like he produces navel, Brahma from his navel, so he can do anything.
Well, because he has Parasya Shakti Vividaiva Suyate. Incredible, unlimited potencies. That's why he has mutually contradictory qualities. He's far away, he's very near. Because he has unlimited potency, he can do that. We can't do that. Because we can't do that, we think, oh, that's a fairy tale. That's not real. Yeah, how can it? If I can't do it, then he can't do it. Yeah, that is our false ego. Okay, so I want to go back to the previous. There was something I didn't finish discussing, where it says the super soul fulfills the desire of the atomic soul as one friend fulfills the desire of another. The Vedas, like the Mundaka Upanishad as well as the Svatasvatara Upanishad, compare the soul and the super soul to two friendly birds sitting on the same tree. One of the birds, the individual atomic soul, is eating the fruit of the tree, and the other bird, Krishna, is simply watching his friend. Of these two birds, although they are the same in quality, one is captivated by the fruits of the material tree, while the other is simply witnessing the activities of his friend. Krishna is the witnessing bird and Arjuna is the eating bird. So do we actually realize this, that Krishna is in our heart and is watching everything we're doing? And as long as we're interested in enjoying the fruits of our work for ourselves, Krishna remains neutral. He remains neutral. And if we desire that, then he helps us. Because we can't do anything without Krishna's help. Right? Like, for example, there's communication between the brain and the parts of the body. Right? So in order to go like this with the finger, right, there's some communication going on. Who is controlling that network? Just like this communication, internet communication, right? You have an internet provider in this house?
Yes.
Which one you go with?
Comcast.
Okay. So, for you to be able to communicate with someone else on the other side of the world, Comcast has to have this network so that your communication goes through that network, right? If Comcast turns off their network, will your communication go? No. The same with this. If Krishna turns off the communication between the brain and the finger, you won't be able to move your finger. Or if he turns off the communication between your vocal cords and your brain, you won't be able to use the vocal cords. See, we're not actually controlling this communication. this network. We're not controlling it. It's Krishna is controlling the network. Like, when there's like a riot, let's say in Egypt, what does Egypt do? They turn off the internet. No more Twitter, no more Facebook, and no more riot communication, right? So then you take it for granted. Oh, this is just going on. It's automatic. It's not. It's a controlled network, and we don't have control over it. So Krishna is witnessing everything, all our desires, internal desires, and he's facilitating us because he controls the network, the communication, to be able to work toward those desires. Now, as long as we desire selfish things, Krishna said, okay, that's what you want, that's what you get. But you can only get it up to the degree of your previous karma, not beyond that. You can't do pujas and improve your previous karma, right? You can only get what you deserve from the previous karma. So, therefore, people don't understand this. And because they don't understand it, their whole life, they're in anxiety and moroseness. Because, yes.
So basically, were you saying like, if you have a material desire,
Yeah.
Krishna will only provide it to the limit you can have it because of your karma? Like,
Yes.
let's say these kids don't have a phone, and then someone else does.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my god, you're so lucky you have a phone. Is that desire not provided to them because of their past karma?
Yes.
Wow.
This is explained here, first chapter, 32nd, 35th verse. It says, Arjuna indicates that Krishna should understand what will satisfy Arjuna's senses, but Govinda, or Krishna, is not meant for satisfying our senses. If we try to satisfy the senses of Govinda, however, then automatically our own senses are satisfied. Materially, everyone wants to satisfy his senses, and he wants God to be the order supplier for such satisfaction. The Lord will satisfy the senses of the living entities as much as they deserve, but not to the extent that they may covet or they may desire. So you're only going to, you can pray to God, please, I want this, this Tesla, please. Okay. If your previous karma is such that you're going to get a Tesla in this life, you'll get it. And if it's not, then you can pray all you want, you're not going to get it. Even though you're praying to God. That's why people stop praying to Krishna. And they go to Ganapati or to Durga or Shiva or somebody else. And then when that doesn't work, then they go to Microsoft or whatever, Facebook or somebody.
Very few exceptions, right? Like Dhruva Maharaj, he was not supposed to get the kingdom, but then Krishna says, I'm giving you that, right? After his austerities was...
He had a guru.
He had
a guru.
That's
Narada
an exception,
Muni.
nobody...
And he followed his guru's sincere... No, here, I didn't read the rest of this. You ready? The Lord will satisfy the senses of the living entities as much as they deserve, but not to the extent that they may covet. But when one takes the opposite way, namely, when one tries to satisfy the senses of Govinda without desiring to satisfy one's own senses, then by the grace of Govinda, all desires of the living entity are satisfied. All desires. So, who in his right mind would continue to desire selfish things? They'd have to be crazy. When Krishna is saying, all your desires will be satisfied if you have pure desires to please the Lord. Prabhupada had pure desires to please the Lord. His desires were satisfied. So, the key to spiritual life is purification of the mind of illicit desires. Now, what is material education all about? It's to inject illicit desires into your mind all the time. All the time. What's the purpose of modern publicity? Inject illicit desires. When I say illicit not that we're talking about necessarily sinful activities per se. It's just personal desires independent of Krishna. Those are illicit desires. And they include sinful activities, and they include desires in the mode of goodness, as long as it's for personal sense enjoyment, and the heck with Krishna. Yes.
So is that karma that like helps you get like stuff that you want, like good karma or bad karma?
Yeah, but the problem is, it's very limited. But if you have only desires to please Krishna, it's unlimited. So why would anyone be stupid enough to want things for themselves only, when it's going to always be limited, whether it's good karma or bad karma? You see? Like, for example, we wanted to build a temple. Not for ourselves, but to glorify Radha and Madhava and Prabhupada and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Krishna gave us the means to do it, and we built the temple. And as long as we use it according to Prabhupada's instructions, it proliferates. Now we bought a second temple. Now we bought a farm. Now we have, it's just increasing, right? As long as our desires are purely for pleasing Prabhupada and Krishna. As soon as we desire things for ourselves, there'll be problems. There'll be problems. So, if we learn this principle, and this is what the whole Bhagavad Gita is about. Now look what Krishna says.
I have a question here.
Yes.
So when you said problems, I wanted to just understand this point of punishment or problems. How does that come into play for devotees and non-devotees? Like
How does
also-
that come into play when?
For devotees or non-devotees. Why do devotees get problems and why do non-devotees get problems? Because everything is sanctioned by Krishna. So why?
Well, it doesn't matter you're a devotee or non-devotee. It depends on the desire. You see my point? It doesn't matter whether you're a devotee or non-devotee. It matters on your desire. If you have a desire for something you want to enjoy selfishly, then there will be suffering and moroseness. There will be anxiety and moroseness. At first you think it's all wonderful, I got exactly what I want. But no, it will be followed with anxiety and moroseness. That's what it said here. It says that says here, transference of the atomic individual soul to another body is made possible by the grace of the supersoul. The supersoul fulfills the desire of the atomic soul as one friend fulfills the desire of another. Okay. The jiva soul is struggling very hard on the tree of the material body, but as soon as he agrees to accept the other bird as the supreme spiritual master, as Arjuna agreed to do by voluntary surrender unto Krishna for instruction, the subordinate bird immediately becomes free from all lamentations. Although the two birds are in the same tree, the eating bird is fully engrossed with anxiety and moroseness as the enjoyer of the fruits of the tree. But if in some way or other he turns his face to his friend, who is the Lord, and knows his glories, at once the suffering bird becomes free from all anxieties. So in my particular case, I didn't do this before, but I do it a lot now. Every time I feel, every time I see my mind desiring something for sense gratification, I immediately pray to Lord Nrsingadev and Krishna to please let me overcome this preoccupation with this desire. I only desire to please Prabhupada and Krishna. Now the mind wanders all the time. So you have to have a way of drawing it back to the real goal. Because by desiring material things for our own selfish pleasure, we're diminishing our potential in life. It's actually what you would call a self-inflicted wound. Right? But then purifying that desire by praying to the Lord, please help me, because only the Lord can help us overcome such desires. So when you pray to the Lord, please let me not succumb to this desire. I just want to desire to please you and Prabhupada. Then you get help. You get help. So, and there's a verse in the 2nd chapter here. Kurmo Naganiva Sarvasaha. So it says, just as the turtle draws its appendages into its shell. Yada samharate chayam kurmo nagani vasarvasaha indriyan indriyartebhyas tasya pragya pratisthita. One who is able to withdraw the senses from sense objects, as the tortoise draws its limbs within the shell, is firmly fixed in perfect consciousness. And in the purport, Prabhupada says, the test of a yogi, devotee, or self-realized soul is that he is able to control the senses according to his plan. Most people, however, are servants of the senses and are thus directed by the dictation of the senses. That is the answer to the question as to how the yogi is situated. The senses are compared to venomous serpents. They want to act very loosely and without restriction. The yogi, or the devotee, must be very strong to control the serpents. Like a snake charmer, he never allows them to act independently. There are many injunctions in the revealed scriptures. Some of them are do-nots and some of them are do's. Unless one is able to follow the do's and the do-nots, restricting oneself from sense enjoyment, it is not possible to be firmly fixed in Krishna consciousness. The best example set herein is the tortoise. The tortoise can at any moment wind up his senses and exhibit them again at any time for particular purposes. Similarly, the senses of the Krishna conscious persons are used only for some particular purpose in the service of the Lord and are withdrawn otherwise. Krishna is being taught here to use his senses for the service of the Lord instead of for his own satisfaction. Arjuna is being taught here to use his senses for the service of the Lord instead of for his own satisfaction. Keeping the senses always in the service of the Lord is the example set by the analogy of the tortoise who keeps the senses within. The 2nd chapter, 58th verse. So one of the senses is the mind also. So as soon as the mind wavers and goes toward personal sense enjoyment, we should notice that and pray to Krishna, please Krishna, I don't want this actually. I want to purify this from my mind. I simply want to please you. Everything depends on desire. If we purify our desires, then there's no limit to how much Krishna will help us attain those pure desires to serve him. If we have only our selfish desires, then we're limited to what we deserve by our previous karma. We'll never be able to do anything significant spiritually.
So my point was for instance, punishment.
What?
Devotee gets punishment.
Punishment.
Devotee gets punishment which is minimized because of his devotion service, whereas a karmi might get a bigger punishment. Is that true?
Devotee gets punishment how?
It's minimized because one is engaged in devotion service. So if he desires something else, something material, Krishna punishes them as a lesson. Is that right understanding to say? Tattanu Kampan,
Huh?
from that verse.
Krishna will only give suffering to specialized suffering, specialized for that particular devotee, because of previous service of the devotee. In other words, that's a special mercy on special devotees. It's not for everyone. And not everyone will be able to understand it properly anyway. Some people go away, they say, oh, I'm chanting Hare Krishna and Krishna gave me all this suffering, I'm not going to chant anymore. They don't understand why it's happening. Krishna will give what appears to be suffering, what appears to be karma based, but it's not. It's because the devotee still has residual material desires. And in order to purify those once and for all, the Krishna crafts specific type of suffering for the devotee. Right? And the devotee who understands what's happening accepts it. And they get the message. Just like you get an SOS message. You're sleepwalking on a cliff. Wake up immediately before you're dead. Right? It's an SOS message, right? So that suffering that the devotee receives is remedial suffering to get rid of those last vestiges of material desires that are lingering in the mind. And the devotee who understands these things becomes very serious about chanting and following all the rules and regulations and depending on the goodwill of the Lord and not trying to make some adjustment, so that they can minimize the suffering. They accept it as the mercy of the Lord. Okay. Because they know, I still have these desires, I can't get rid of them. And Krishna is giving me this suffering so I can get rid of it once and for all.
Prabhuji, so you said super soul is a witnessing God. So does super soul ever interfere?
What?
Does super soul ever interfere, or does it always just witness? Does it interfere with whatever soul is doing? Or
Yeah, for special souls who have rendered service and they want to do the right thing, but they're weak still. They still succumb to material desire. So it gives specialized suffering as a message. Suffering is always a message, whether you're a good soul or a bad soul. It's always a message that you made some mistakes and you should rectify it. Whenever there's suffering, like if your child is misbehaving, you give it some remedial suffering, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Not to hurt the child, but to teach us how they're doing the wrong thing. So whenever there's suffering, it's a message from God directly to us that we made some mistake. Now you may say, I can't remember making a mistake. Doesn't matter. The ultimate mistake is forgetting Krishna. We've all done that. So what's the solution to that mistake?
Remembering.
Remembering Krishna. How do you remember? What's the easy way to remember?
Chanting.
Chanting or chanting Hare Krishna? Yeah.
Associating with
It sounded like chanting, No, chanting Hare Krishna, there's no involved. Okay, so understand this one thing from tonight. Suffering is always a message from God to us directly. It could be a toothache, it could be so many things. It's a message. We made some mistake. Now, if you can't figure out what the mistake is, the generic mistake is forgetting Krishna. Well, everyone's forgetting Krishna all the time. So the solution? Always remember Krishna. So suffering is, usually you remember Krishna when you suffer, right? At least devotees do. Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to talk about this, so we'll go back now. What time is it now?
9:30.
Huh?
9:30.
Okay, so we'll just take some more questions and we'll end up. We won't read another one. You see, this second chapter is very powerful, Very, very powerful story. The whole Bhagavad Gita is in the second chapter.
I thought it was like the ninth.
No, it's the second chapter. It's a summary of the whole Bhagavad Gita. Every part of the Bhagavad Gita, it's like gold. Whether you look at it from the left-hand side, the right-hand side, above or below, it's valuable. No more questions? Then
Can we
no.
connect the same point to the last point you were just explaining? The 929 verse, Samam Sarva Bhuteshu Named Bestiyastum.
Yeah, Krishna is equal to everyone,
Ye bhajanti
not
ki naam-
partial,
Yeah.
but he's actually partial to his devotee. Okay, so what do you want me to relate?
So the point you're saying, like for devotees he'll interfere, but not for everybody. Right?
Well, everyone's suffering, so in a generic term sense, suffering is a message from God to us that we've made a mistake.
Yeah.
Now, if we look at it like that, then we can correctly understand why they're suffering. If we say, no, I'm suffering because because of Trump, it's all his fault. If we can get rid of Trump, then my suffering will go away. So, I'll go out and go door to door and get people to vote against Trump. So that's, the person is trying to make an adjustment to stop suffering, some material adjustment. That doesn't stop suffering.
It'll make it worse.
They might think that the problem is going away, but it's not going to go away. Right. Or, someone might, just like I had this one friend in India, a very wealthy Indian man. So, but he was always eating junk. And he had a terrible diet, And he would, and I stayed with him for about a week, Every day he'd bring home junk food, fried stuff, all junk. So I told him, Prabhu, you eat this junk all the time. It's not good for you. I said, you could have a heart attack. So, oh, I'm not worried. I'm not worried. Why not? Oh, he said, I'm more worried. What does that mean, I'm more worried? Oh, we have a special doctor in Houston. If I have a heart problem, I go down there, I get bypass. Rather stupid, dumb, concept, right? That, by the way, how does he know he'll survive the heart attack taking an airplane all the way to Houston from Delhi, right? Hey, what a stupid, I said, oh no, I'm not worried, they go to Houston and doctor does bypass. You see how stupid people can be. Instead of improving his diet, he's going to continue eating that junk. And if he feels some heart palpitation, he'll jump on an airplane because he's very wealthy, and he'll fly to Houston to the doctor. What if the doctor dies himself? What's he going to do then? Just crazy, silly. Thinking that you can solve the problem of suffering by material adjustment is the epitome of materialistic culture. That's what keeps people in the material world, ideas like that in the mind. Now, I can solve the problem of suffering simply by material arrangement. Yeah, Hare Krishna. Okay, so we'll stop there. Oh, where's the Srila Prabhupada ki jai. What?